Hamas is saying the ceasefire deal cannot advance and is accusing Israel of violating it. In Saudi Arabia, a quiet social shift. Now alcohol is allowed for rich people who aren't Muslims. All this is lined up, but first, let's take a look at the headlines. In Gaza, a delicate ceasefire teeters on the brink. Hamas says there can be no phase 2 of the ceasefire, not until the phase 1 is fully implemented. This includes opening Rafah. Now, Israel, on the other hand, is accused of violating this ceasefire, and it is tightening its grip underground, trapping Hamas fighters in the tunnel network. All this could threaten the already fragile ceasefire deal. The next report tells you more.
Gaza's ceasefire is hanging by a thread and both sides know it. According to reports, a senior Hamas official now says Phase 2 of the US-backed peace plan cannot begin. Not while Israel's violations continue. Hamas accuses Israel of ignoring key terms like reopening the Rafah crossing, expanding aid, and respecting the yellow line that splits the enclave. Israel says the crossing will open soon, and that any strikes are responses to Hamas fire. For now, the truce still stands, a fragile halt to 2 years of war. But the ground reality is shifting. Israel and Hamas trade accusations daily. And inside the tunnels of East Rafah, a far deadlier standoff is brewing. According to reports, around 100 Hamas fighters are trapped underground, cut off by the ceasefire lines, running out of food and water. Israel says this is where the next phase of the war will be decided. Troops are mapping tunnels, drilling into them, even flooding sections with water to flush out fighters. Israel says more than 40 militants have been killed in recent weeks. A handful have surrendered, most refused to come out. And Israel claims these trapped fighters have now become the biggest obstacle to moving the peace plan forward.
And we discussed, of course, how to bring an end to the Hamas rule in Gaza, because that's an essential part of ensuring a different future for Gaza and a different future for us facing Gaza. We finished the first part, as you know. Phase 1, we're almost there. We have one more hostage, deceased, Hani Gvili, a hero of Israel, to return here. And then we, very shortly, expect to move into the second phase, which is more difficult.
Washington wanted their fate to be a test case, a model for how Hamas could be disarmed peacefully. Instead, it has turned into a deadlock. Hamas wants safe passage. Israel wants surrender. No country agrees to take them in. And the killing continues underground, even as the ceasefire holds above it. Meanwhile, Trump and Netanyahu say Phase 2 is coming soon. Hamas disarming, a new Palestinian leadership in Gaza, and the IDF pulling back for a multinational force. But Hamas insists it will not give up its weapons without a political deal, without a pathway to a Palestinian state.
Washington is flipping the script on Tehran. The United States of America is now producing a copycat drone from the Iranian. Now this copy craft is supposed to lead an attack unit, a drone attack unit for the American warfare. This is a major shift in modern warfare where cheap, mass-produced drones will lead and change from West Asia to Ukraine, the battlefield. Now as the Pentagon aims for drone dominance, it is a new era where high-tech warfare is in place. The next story tells you more.
The Pentagon's most guarded secret is out. A bitter pill for the world's self-proclaimed military superpower. For decades, the United States has prided itself on absolute defense dominance. Most advanced fighter jets, long-range stealth bombers, lethal missiles, biggest aircraft carriers, nuclear submarines, and satellite-guided precision. Yet, the brutal calculus of the modern battlefield has changed everything. The trillion-dollar arsenal is suddenly facing an enemy that costs just a few thousand US per unit, Iran's notorious Shahed drones. The sprawling American military-industrial complex, built on extreme complexity and immense expense, has been utterly humbled by cheap, effective simplicity. American engineers have now quietly finished cloning Tehran's devastating kamikaze drones, which have shown their devastating power in Russia-Ukraine war. For years, Iran's Shahed drones haunted battlefields because it was cheap, fast and relentless. Now, in a twist worthy of a spy thriller, the world's strongest military has copied the very weapon designed to challenge it. The United States has reversed engineered Tehran's infamous Shahed. A drone once mocked as crude, a drone now treated as a blueprint. American military calls it Lucas. Reports reveal that US technicians disassembled captured Shaheds from Ukraine and the Red Sea, studying every chip and circuit. The results? A swarm of American-built lookalikes that can fly 650 kilometers with a range of 650 kilometers and can carry a payload of 18 kilograms. It has a speed of 185 kilometers per hour. In comparison, the Iranian Shahed has all the above features, but has a longer range of 2,000 kilometers and comes at the same cost of $35,000 apiece, like its American copy. Experts say that there is a bigger, darker layer. If the United States perfects this design, it may export the technology to allies that could shift drone warfare across West Asia, where skies are already crowded with machines, militias, and missile alerts. The future is not just about who builds the most advanced weapons. It's about who understands the enemy's weapons better than the adversary himself. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Climate crisis in Iraq as central and northern regions are flooded with rains, while the southern regions are suffering from drought and scarcity of water. In one side of the country, bridges are collapsing under the rains, and in another, lakes are shrinking into craters. Now Iraq is grappling with this crisis. The next story tells you more.
Heavy rains have brought deadly floods to Iraq's Kurdistan region. killing at least 2 people and injuring 4 others in Chamchamal district. Officials say 2 children are still missing after torrents of water swept through Sulaimaniya province, submerging streets and damaging homes. The impact spread far beyond the north.
The rain was heavy and the flooding was powerful and entered our homes. As you can see, the water came into the house and we have nothing left. We suffered heavy damage inside the house. Nothing remains. No refrigerator, no freezer, no household items. Nothing is left from our home.
In Tuz Kurmatu, a bridge linking Baghdad and Kirkuk collapsed under the force and speed of floodwaters, according to local authorities. Cities across Iraq saw roads turn into rivers, including Hilla in Babylon province, where residents worked through the water to clear out their homes. In Baghdad, a thick blanket of fog added to the disruption, forcing a temporary shutdown of the capital's international airport. But even as some parts of Iraq are overwhelmed by water, others are being strangled by the lack of it. Nearby Iran saw rainfall for the first time in months, a brief relief for a country in severe drought. In Tehran, the government-sponsored billboards reportedly call on the public not to use garden hoses outside to avoid waste. And in southern Iraq, the climate crisis is even more visible. Workers at Lake Najaf, once a crucial water source, now shovel salt from exposed lake beds that have lost over 10,000 acres of surface water. Environmentalists say it is a stark symbol of Iraq's broader water collapse, driven by upstream damming, mismanagement, and relentlessly declining rainfall.
Water could return, provided the Iraqi government reaches an agreement with the Turkish government. Even if it does return, 3 lakes will need 2 years to fill up. Only after those 2 years, water might reach the southern region.
When salinity level in the river increases, the proportion of bacteria and fungi also increases, and the concentration of toxic and harmful heavy metals will rise, negatively affecting our health.
The Euphrates, one of the cradles of human civilization, could run dry as early as 2040. For communities whose livelihoods depend on agriculture and livestock, that would be devastating. And then there is Lake Sawa, a 5,000-year-old natural wonder in Al-Muthanna province. Once a thriving ecosystem of fish, shrimp, and migratory birds, it has now shrunk to just a fraction of its size. In April, it dried up completely. Today, only a small pond remains in the middle of a massive crater. Local residents remember when the lake was full, a place for swimming, picnics, and boat rides. Now, the desert has swallowed what was once a stable, protected wetland that helped regulate the region's climate. Iraq stands between 2 extremes: catastrophic flooding in parts of the country and a deepening water crisis in others. A land that survived thousands of years of civilizations is now being reshaped by climate change in real time.
A high-stakes chessboard is spinning from Caracas to Tehran. The American President Donald Trump is tightening the ring on Iran and Hezbollah, with Washington heating up against Iraq, Venezuela, and Lebanon, but still avoiding an open war. Now the question is West Asia heading towards a confrontation? Or are we entering a new era of pressure and persuasion? We tell you more.
Washington's foreign policy radar may be dominated by Venezuela and Ukraine at the moment. But that hasn't stopped President Donald Trump from reviving old battles and opening new fronts. And at the center of it all is a singular objective: encircling Iran and Hezbollah. From Caracas to Tehran, through Iraq, Yemen and Lebanon, the Trump administration is deploying direct measures, sharp warnings and even advanced drones. But despite the escalation, the White House insists it does not want war, at least not yet. In Venezuela, the push is clear. Washington wants Nicolas Maduro out, not with troops, but through pressure, incentives and threats. Trump sees Venezuela as a strategic prize, a chance to cut Russia's Latin American footprint and block China's backdoor access to sanctioned Iranian oil. And that Venezuela-Iran partnership is deeper than many realize. Drugs trafficking, drone manufacturing, intelligence sharing and money laundering. To Washington, cutting those arteries would deal a severe blow to the entire so-called axis of resistance. And if diplomacy fails, the US has military plans ready. The pressure is being felt. In Iran, an uproar erupted after a government gazette listed Hezbollah as a terrorist organization, a move Baghdad later called a mistake. But whether error or test, the message was unmistakable. Iran and Hezbollah are being squeezed from every angle. And then there is Lebanon. The encirclement came through an unlikely door: negotiations with Israel. Iran and Hezbollah tried to block the talks, even prepared to force an Israeli war to stop them. But Washington stepped in with its clearest warning yet. Lebanon must assert state sovereignty and bring all weapons under its authority, or Israel will do it by force with full American backing. Lebanon's leaders heard the message. President Joseph Aoun, Prime Minister Nawaf Salam agreed to move ahead. Beirut appointed Ambassador Simon Karam to a new negotiation mechanism, a signal that the state, not Hezbollah, was taking the lead. For Tehran and Hezbollah, this was a shock, because behind closed doors, they were told, if you escalate, the drones will fly, not just in Lebanon, but over Iran itself. Today, Iran finds itself surrounded from the Americas to West Asia. Its position in Syria has collapsed, its Persian crescent is fracturing. And in southern Lebanon, the US is pushing for a buffer zone built on two pillars. Security and economic rebirth. A vision that excludes Iran entirely, unless it chooses to rewrite its role in the region. The negotiations have shifted the landscape. The war is not off the table, but for now it is postponed.
In a country where alcohol has been banned since 1952, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is rewriting its social rules. Now, alcohol is allowed beyond diplomats, beyond premium visa holders. It is allowed for high-earning non-Muslim expats. According to reports, there's a surge in demand and many stores are looking forward to opening. Listen in.
There is a rare shift out of Saudi Arabia, one that would have been unthinkable just a few years ago. Foreign residents in the kingdom say authorities have quietly relaxed restrictions on alcohol sales, extending access to a much wider group of non-Muslim expats. According to reports, any non-Muslim foreigner earning over 50,000 reals a month, that is about $13,000, can now shop at the country's only authorized liquor store in Riyadh. Until recently, only diplomats and premium visa holders had that privilege. Customers say they didn't believe it at first. Residents say people are going crazy at the news as if alcohol had just been discovered. And the numbers reflect that excitement. Reportedly, over 12,000 premium visa holders have already made purchases from the Riyadh shop, a surge in demand since the quiet loosening of rules began. This opens a significant chapter in Saudi Arabia's social reforms. The kingdom has maintained a strict alcohol ban since 1952. Its first ever official store only opened 2 years ago, and even then, just for diplomats. The government has not formally commented. However, the kingdom is changing lots of rules as part of a broader strategy to attract foreign talent, investors and tourists under Vision 2030. And more change may be coming. Reports suggest new outlets could open in Jeddah and Dhahran as early as 2026. It is a signal that the kingdom's social landscape may be evolving even faster than expected. A big move, and one that could reshape how expats live and how Saudi Arabia projects itself to the world.
Now let's take a look at what else is making the headlines across West Asia.
Iran is once again among the world's leading jailers of journalists, according to Reporters Without Borders, which ranks it behind only China, Russia, and Myanmar in its latest annual report. RSF says 21 journalists are currently imprisoned in Iran, with one still missing, as repression of the press has intensified since the 2022 protests. The group blames growing impunity and failure by governments and international bodies to protect journalists, especially in conflict zones. The report warns that journalism is becoming deadlier, citing Gaza, Ukraine, and Sudan as the most dangerous places. RSF also says Iran is among top countries for journalists forced into exile, as crackdowns deepen amid heightened tensions and mass arrests following the Iran-Israel conflict. Seattle is pressing ahead with plans to celebrate LGBTQ+ rights during the FIFA World Cup next summer, despite formal objections from the Egyptian and Iranian football federations. The controversy centers on a pride match around the Group G fixture between Egypt and Iran on June 26. Both federations have complained to FIFA, saying the celebrations conflict with their cultural and religious values. Local organizers say pride activities will take place outside the stadium and will go ahead as planned. FIFA, which controls matchday operations, has confirmed rainbow flags will be allowed inside the stadium under existing rules. Seattle officials say the events reflect the city's long-standing commitment to equality and inclusion, and that all fans will be welcomed with dignity during the tournament. The UAE has imposed a travel ban on its citizens to Mali amid deteriorating security conditions in the West African nation. The Foreign Ministry has also urged Emirati nationals currently in Mali to leave the country immediately and return home as a precautionary measure. The ministry called for strict adherence to official advisories and asked citizens to exercise maximum caution. It said emergency assistance remains available around the clock through dedicated hotlines. Mali is grappling with intensifying jihadist violence, including blockades of the capital Bamako by al-Qaeda-linked groups, triggering fuel shortages and disrupting daily life. The crisis follows years of coups, rising instability, and a hardening military rule.
That's all we have for you on this episode of the West Asia Post. I will see you next week with a brand new lineup, always bringing you the most recent updates, news and ground reports from West Asia. I'm your host, Radi Francis, signing off from Beirut, Lebanon. For more global news, keep on watching WION World is One.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
As Golden Globes nominations build up anticipation for Hollywood's awards season, we take a look at the top contenders. No rare facts about Indian cinema icon Rajnikant. And find out what viral 2x2 fashion trend is all about. All this and much more with me, Diksha Bisla, on WION at these times.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building, coming soon to challenge